U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida is not shy. Among a certain set, he is justice incarnate, Saint Murkle. Among others, he has earned the title Mad Dog Murkle, who will claw and savage anyone who gets in his way.
I'm a man you don't meet every day.
In my apartment, I'd look down on 3rd Avenue for 26 years, and I'd see, bag ladies, and I'd think, oh, God, do something about that, and oh, it's terrible. It will never happen to me, but it did.
How would you ever know that she didn't have a place to live? How would you know she didn't have...
She's not a bag lady. She's not sleeping on a grate. She's not, God help us, muttering to herself on the street someplace. She's just down on her luck and alone.
Exactly.
When people talk about ridiculous sums paid to plaintiffs, one of the plaintiffs they talk about is Judith Haynes.
Last year, a jury awarded one woman $1 million in damages. She'd claimed that a CAT scan had destroyed her psychic powers.
What the president failed to say is that she never got a penny. The judge threw the verdict out. And her case is only one of many misconceptions about the so-called lawsuit crisis.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Harry Reasoner.
I'm Ed Bradley.
I'm Diane Sawyer. Those stories and Andy Rooney, tonight on 60 Minutes.
His enemies call him Mad Dog Murkle, and it's typical of the man that he takes a perverse delight in the nickname. He is Robert Murkle, the U.S. Attorney, the federal prosecutor for the Middle District of Florida. Currently, he's prosecuting Carlos Lader, alleged to be the most important cocaine dealer ever caught. Murkle had already gained a reputation as one of the toughest prosecutors in the country, especially in the area of drug dealing and official corruption, two common maladies in the state of Florida. But has Murkle gone too far in his crusade, trampling on the rights of anyone who gets in his way? That's the question in Murkle country these days. To answer it, Mad Dog Murkle reaches for his guitar.
On this day fraught with woe, the mad dog was my foe, and Miranda was slipping away.
The U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida is not shy. This 43-year-old Notre Dame alumnus with the look and manner of a young J. Edgar Hoover is quick to lash out at critics and at such legal niceties as the Miranda rule.
To the extent we impose that sort of straitjacket on a system, we ensure a continuation of the prospect whereby defendants are alienated and the police are frustrated and hamstrung in their legitimate constitutional duty.
Stand by Bill in St. Petersburg. Stand by Doug in St. Pete. Stand by John in Palm Harbor, Florida. We are talking about U.S. Attorney Robert Murkle.
From Tampa to Orlando, from Jacksonville to Fort Myers, barely a soul is neutral about Bob Murkle.
Look at the lights lighting up. My goodness, people speaking up.
Well, I'm for Mr. Murkle 100%. What more do you want to know?
Among a certain set, he is justice incarnate, Saint Murkle. Among others, he has earned the title Mad Dog Murkle, who will claw and savage anyone who gets in his way.
He's a sick person. Every time I hear the word government from him, I'm beginning to think government is a dirty word.
Editorials call for his removal, and so does the governor, and so do a number of sheriffs.
Efforts to have Murkle ousted from office by the White House seem to be gaining momentum tonight.
Murkle can fairly respond that everyone hates him but the people. Almost 10,000 petitioned the Justice Department to keep him on the job. Murkle is a household word. His face, a household face. Remarkable when you consider that most Americans have no idea who their U.S. attorney is. Murkle has been with the Justice Department practically since he left law school, and for the past 5 years, he's been the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District, a presidential appointment. He's taken aim at corrupt public officials corrupted by the easy money available from the Florida drug trade.
The corrosive power of the drug trade respects no cultural lines, no class lines, nothing. I mean, it's just, it's a tragedy. It's a modern-day tragedy, which is why I've suggested to you that one of the major failures of the criminal justice system is it doesn't recognize that. It hasn't yet recognized that.
He is convinced that the drug money creates an environment that encourages every kind of public corruption. In 5 years, Murkle has indicted 2 judges, 6 county commissioners, 3 prosecutors, 1 sheriff, 4 deputies, 2 federal agents, and dozens of lawyers, bankers, and businessmen. But his enemies allege that in his zeal he has coerced confessions, abused the grand jury system, threatened to get his critics smeared reputations, that he uses his office as a blunt instrument, bashing the guilty and innocent alike. Norman Cannella used to be the chief assistant state attorney, the district attorney in Tampa.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office brought me into town shortly before the 6 o'clock news and paraded me in handcuffs. And that was played back to this community for many, many months following my arrest.
Murkle was convinced that Cannella had taken bribes from drug dealers.
Did you ever take any bribes?
No, sir.
Once it came to trial, what happened?
The federal judge took the case away from the jury and granted a Rule 29, which is an acquittal on all counts. That is a loud and clear message to the government that their case wasn't worth a damn.
A judgment of acquittal is not tantamount to a finding of innocence. Juries, and by implication judges, render not guilty verdicts, which are not to say innocent verdicts, but not guilty verdicts, because of mistake, confusion, sympathy, or any number of other factors.
But that's our system.
You're right. So, but accept that system for what it is, and don't jump on a bandwagon to suggest that the U.S. attorney who brought that charge didn't have any evidence to bring the charge.
Murkle believes that the courts blew it.
Well, I think that's a cop-out. I think that's a cop-out.
Mr. Cannella, now in private practice, feels his reputation was ruined by Murkle's vindictiveness. Vindictive or not, Murkle has had a lot of success. For example, his first big case when he came to Tampa, the Hillsborough County Commission. 4 county commissioners were sent to jail. But when Murkle brought another Hillsborough County case to trial, things backfired. 11 of 15 defendants were acquitted.
The jury blew it. Because that happened, it shouldn't minimize what was accomplished in that case, because the jury did determine that that county commission was operated as a racketeering enterprise, which is a pretty strong statement.
Murkle's targets are not only drug suspects, but their lawyers. Barry Cohen, a prominent Tampa defense attorney, was brought before a grand jury. No clear accusation was made, but Cohen says Murkle was bent on proving he was a conduit for bribes. Nothing came of the grand jury appearance, but Cohen, in retaliation, helped start the Dump Murkle campaign with a full-page ad in the local paper.
Basically, I told the people of this community that Murkle's McCarthy mentality is a threat to innocent people. He has an art for manipulating the facts.
That's called good lawyering, otherwise.
No, that's not called good lawyering. Good lawyering is not inducing people to tell untruths, not threatening people that they'll be indicted if they don't tell you what you want to hear, so that you can manipulate the facts with other facts that do exist. Not telling one witness what another witness has said to corroborate the testimony. Not holding many meetings in the office behind the grand jury closed doors and telling witnesses that you better testify in a particular way.
Telling witnesses that unless they testify in a particular way, they're going to be in trouble.
Yes.
Isn't that criminal?
Yes, it's criminal.
But who's accusing of a criminal act?
Absolutely. And there's sworn testimony to that effect, and the Justice Department has reviewed it, and they've chosen to ignore it.
Cohen's complaint, including sworn statements that Murkle had tried to coerce witnesses, was reviewed by the Justice Department and found to be without substance. Murkle was cleared.
The fact of the matter is that I do my work in an environment which does not allow for the mad dog prosecutor, if you will. It does not allow for the renegade who is willing to trample people's rights. To suggest that I am somehow engaging in a massive diminution of people's rights is simply, it's preposterous.
A person doesn't just get a nickname of Mad Dog Murkle just out of coincidence. That's the name that President Reagan gave to Gaddafi.
What is it about Robert Murkle that excites such anger, passion, even hatred among judges, among many police officers, newspaper editors?
I would suggest to you that the main cause of it is that we're doing a great job here. Law enforcement here is as it should be, federal law enforcement. That is essentially independent, fair, and honest.
No, I think you left something out. Tough as hell.
Aggressive, that's right. It has to be. It has to be. This is not a business where you can put a few hours in a day and then go to the country club.
3 times Murkle has been investigated, and he was cleared each time. To support him during the last investigation, a petition with almost 10,000 names called on the government to keep him on the job. The heart, soul, and voice of the Robert Murkle fan club are Joyce Hunter, Gene Constantino, and Trudy Yates.
I'll tell you that the man on the street thinks Bob Murkle is A-OK.
It's rare that you get, for example, a state prosecutor, police officers, defense attorneys, all agreeing in such a vocal way that this man is the very embodiment of evil within the judicial system.
Then why can't they prove it?
Do you think they're all really guilty? These people are saying, get Murkle?
I'm sure that all of them are not guilty, but I think there are a lot more guilty ones than he's dragged out yet.
It takes an aggressive...
Arrogant?
Yes. Arrogant, yes. Arrogant, ambitious.
Driven?
Yes. You're not going to accomplish what he has accomplished if you're going to be a wimp.
Their hero is definitely not a wimp. He is father of 9, outspoken enemy of abortion. He responded to the outcry against him by picking up his guitar and taking to the local airwaves with a song he had written just for his opponents, the Ballad of the Crooked Lawyer.
They take what they can from their clients and leave them with the words of a sad lawyer's song.
While Murkle has criticized the media, he has become one of its stars, more a publicity hound than a mad dog.
Is this going to be a deterrent, do you think, to other people?
Bet your boots.
His enemies say that his continuing harangue to the public that so many officials are corrupt has undermined good government. Among the victims, they say, is law enforcement. Frank Wanaka, the sheriff of Lee County, and his chief deputy, Dave Wilson, have been the targets of a number of Murkle grand juries looking for drug involvement. But so far, not a single conviction.
Our reputations are tarnished forever because of Mr. Murkle. And he's done it to many people, not just us.
He has turned an awful lot of policemen against the system and made them detest the profession itself because they see how the abuses happen and they start looking over their shoulder and you know, saying, how long do I want to be a part of this viciousness?
There are those who say that this crusade of yours has gone so far overboard that government down here has kind of stopped because everybody's looking over their shoulder in fear that Murkle's net is going to just pull them in, innocent or not.
Well, first of all, Murkle doesn't have a net.
Murkle's got a grand jury, which is better than a net.
That's right, and it's fairer than a net.
Kevin Calwary, a Tampa reporter who covers Murkle's office, would not agree. He was brought before a grand jury, was caught in the net.
The method of operation seems to be throw out a net, bring in 20 fish. Hopefully the 5 fish that you're looking for are in there, you get them, and you throw the other 15 back out. Maybe the fish can swim when they're thrown back out. Maybe they just flop around for a while. Is it fair to those people?
To this day, Calwary does not know if Murkle's office wanted information or was trying to intimidate him.
Anybody who goes before the grand jury remains under suspicion. I think I remain under suspicion to this day, as does everybody else who's been there. Until that subpoena comes to your front door, you have no idea what kind of effect it has on you and your family. And it's a devastating effect. It's a frightening effect.
But why, then, is he so popular with the public?
Hitler was popular with the public.
Hitler?
Very popular.
His detractors would like to see the last of Bob Murkle. His supporters want to see him run for the U.S. Senate. Murkle says they're both wrong.
I once said I was going to raise goats when I left this office. I was asked why goats, and I said that if you've been around lawyers as long as I'd have, you realize what good company goats were.
For the moment, Mad Dog Murkle is content to get other people's goats. And all their efforts to retaliate have failed. He serves at the president's pleasure, and the president seems pleased enough with the job he's doing. And so is Mad Dog.
When you're drinking with me, I'm a man you don't meet every day.
But For the Grace of God is a story about a different kind of homeless American. They've been called the middle-class homeless. A small but growing number of our fellow citizens who have never spent time in mental institutions. They aren't winos or drug addicts. These are people who are simply, suddenly poor. They cannot pay the rent, cannot find a place to live. They used to have jobs and families, friends, money. Now all that is gone.
What do you know? I did it.
Joy Thompson, age 65, forced to leave the apartment she had lived in for 26 years. Her destination? Half a room in a local shelter. Miriam Bond, age 65, evicted from her comfortable home because she couldn't pay the rent and cannot find any place to live for the money she can afford. Frank, 54, used to pay taxes on a salary of $28,000 a year. Illness forced him to quit. He lost his home. He had to hit the streets.
In my apartment, I'd look down on 3rd Avenue for 26 years, and I'd see, rag ladies, and I'd think, oh, God, do something about that, and oh, it's terrible. It will never happen to me, but it did. Not exactly a rag lady, but homeless is homeless.
Homeless for Joy Thompson is half of an 8x10 room in a temporary shelter in Manhattan. Homeless is sharing a toilet and a dripping shower with 14 other residents. It's being reduced to an income of $430 a month from Social Security, plus $10 a month for food stamps. And you cannot rent an apartment for that.
This is sort of a shocker, but this is it. When they first came here, they said 3 months. I said, I'll never make it, but I did.
It's clean.
Fairly.
What do you mean, fairly?
Well, not exactly what I'm accustomed to.
What happened to all the good things in life Joy Thompson was accustomed to? A husband in private business. He died. Her $20,000 a year job as a waitress and hostess. Arthritis and a broken wrist forced her to give that up. A mother who worked at Saks and shared the rent. She died. A comfortable 4.5-room apartment in New York's Murray Hill that she'd called home for 26 years. The building went condo. The possessions she could salvage wound up here as central moving and storage. She pays $50 a month to keep them here. We asked her to sift through some of them. Joy walked among her possessions with a mix of emotions. Remember the evenings in those blue dancing shoes?
I gave my dancing dresses to the Goodwill.
Remember her old dog, Silky?
Worn it in the kitchen. It's my dog's portrait. That's that.
But above all, it was finding pictures of her mother that brought Joy face to face with the contrast between the present and the past.
I loved my mother. She was a very wise and beautiful person. She instilled a lot of dignity and pride and gumption in me. She said, be my monument.
Joy also returned to the past one day when she walked by her old apartment and the doorman remembered her.
Hi. He said, I miss you. I miss you. Are you all right? Very, very nice. It was a pleasing experience, not to be forgotten.
Boy, the day of moving out.
Well, a long time, 26 years. Like 26 years, your house, life ripped out. I can still hear the sound of it. They had this tape, the sort of scritchy. I can hear that in my mind.
And you had nobody to turn to, Joy? All by yourself?
Mm-hmm. There was a time I didn't have anybody even to talk to.
Let's say that you want to go to a movie now.
Oh, I couldn't. $6 for a movie. Little things like a paper, or a magazine, or a book you would want to read, or getting lifts on your shoes, or buying cosmetics. You have to think twice about those things, which to me at one time were just like normal things you did every day.
Sarah Peller directs Project Dorot, the shelter that took Joy in. She and her co-workers know from unhappy experience that Joy is not an isolated case.
You know, you can lose your apartment very easily. If you've been living with someone, a family member, who dies or goes into a nursing home or something, you may lose your housing because you may need 2 incomes to pay the rent.
These are people like Joy, whom we do not see.
How would you ever know that she didn't have a place to live? How would you know she didn't have...
She's not a bag lady.
Right.
She's not
Exactly.
sleeping on a grate. She's not, God help us, muttering to herself on the street someplace. She's just down on her luck and alone.
Exactly.
The shelter was only a temporary stop for Joy Thompson. The social workers found her a room in a single-room occupancy hotel nearby. She'll have to pay $114 a month for it out of her $430 of Social Security, but she says it too is only temporary. For Joy Thompson insists that she is on her way back up.
This is square one. I'm going to square 2, and I'm going to go all the way back up again. I'm determined.
Miriam Bond is 65. Her total income, $500 a month. Her rent alone was $663 a month. So for the last 2 years, she hasn't been able to pay the rent, and for 2 years, her landlord has been trying to evict her. He is about to succeed, and there is no place in Manhattan Miriam can find an apartment she can afford. So Miriam Bond is about to join the ranks of the middle-class homeless. Bond came from a moderately wealthy family. She graduated from New York University, married, divorced, had 1 daughter now living in Paris. Miriam worked as a teacher, a secretary. Along with crippling arthritis, she blames herself for her predicament, beginning with her prickly personality and her profligate ways.
I wasn't poor. All my life I had enough because my father had money, you know. And I had it, I spent it.
And then you were known as the teapot lady?
Oh, yeah, well, I had the antique shop, yeah. I specialized in teapots.
What do you think about when you go through albums, photos, scrapbooks?
It's all past history.
The day she got married, baby photographs, trips to Rio and to Stonehenge, her collection of drawings and paintings.
As you saw this begin to happen to you.
Yeah, well, you know, you get too soon old and too late smart.
Yeah.
I should have been applying for apartments long, long ago, but I didn't read the handwriting on the wall. I kept thinking, I'm feeling better and I'll get better and, you know. Anyway, now it's done. It's finished.
You never had panicked along the way and said, oh, my Lord.
Sure, but I haven't got the guts to kill myself, so I guess I have to suffer with it.
And the future? What do you see?
Not much.
In the life of Miriam Bond?
Nobody will give me a job because they see the 2 canes. They don't want me. I have tried to tell people that it's my legs that are a problem, not my head.
Why doesn't Miriam's daughter help? Because she herself is struggling, and over the years, mother and daughter have become estranged. Miriam let us see a letter she'd received from her daughter that gives her little solace in her current predicament.
That letter won't keep me warm, Mr. Wallace. It's not a substitute in telegrams and telephone calls once a year, twice a year. You can't nourish a plan on that little bit.
We were with Miriam on the day she was evicted, the day she had to leave her apartment of 8 years for the last time and go to a shelter the city had recommended. But what she saw there stunned her. First, that she would have to share a room with a stranger.
There's no way. No, I can't. I can't. I'm up half the night. I can't do it. No, I'd rather go on the street. Come on, take a step back downstairs. I cannot share a room with somebody else.
She appealed to a friend who has agreed to take her in temporarily. But she has no idea where she will wind up permanently. Frank was married, has 5 children. He's an Army veteran and made as much as $28,000 a year as a computer room supervisor. Then his wife died. He was struck with a debilitating illness, heart disease, a mild stroke, and stuck with almost $30,000 in uninsured hospital bills, which he paid. That wiped out his life savings and put him on the street. His income today, $45 a week from welfare, plus $8 in food stamps.
What do you do when you wake up one morning and suddenly you're bust? You're too proud to ask for help from your family. You're evicted from your house.
Well, you do what I did. You go out and you try and find a place to sleep and you try and find a place to eat.
And?
That's all you're interested in. You can't get a job because you can't go for an interview because you don't have the clothes. If you do get a job as a messenger, which I was doing, you can only work 2 or 3 days a week because there's no place to sleep. You can't afford the rent. What I did was sleep in the daytime in a library or an atrium, and I'd walk the streets at night because sleeping on the street at night is pretty dangerous.
How do you keep yourself clean? Where do you go to the bathroom?
That's a tough one. That's tough. I had a place where I could clean up every morning.
The place, a Fifth Avenue bookstore that opens promptly at 8:30 in the morning.
But that's another reason I came in off the street is because I found myself not shaving after 3 days, and my hand, I wasn't washing. I said, who the hell cares? If you're dirty, if you're unshaved, who cares?
You were married, 5 children, good family, good job. Your wife died.
Yep.
Your kids scattered.
They went to live their own life, yes.
And you won't even let your children know?
No, I won't.
Because?
Because they have their lives to lead. They don't need me at this stage of their life. They're young. They've gone their way.
I know, but you supported them. You brought them up. You put them through school. You did all of that for them. I gotta believe that they'd probably want to help their father, whom they love.
That's correct. But I don't want them to do it.
That is one of the reasons Frank asked us not to use his real name and to disguise his features. It is also one of the reasons he was reluctant to seek help until he met Gittel Perkins. She is a social worker at Manhattan's Lenox Hill Neighborhood Association. She took a special interest in Frank and saw that he got a room at the Dorot shelter where he lives today.
More and more people like Frank are coming on the scene, Mike. You find more middle-class folks out there.
How come?
Well, in his case, it was what you call a catastrophic circumstance, a catastrophic illness. People don't understand this does exist. How come? Because there's no housing out there. There's nothing for a person to go to when you don't have a high income.
I think that people are going to be surprised to see these women, this gentleman. These are people who have paid their dues, paid their taxes, given to charity, supported their families. They are now...
And they're veterans of their country, too, be they Korean or Vietnam.
And they've got no place to go.
And they have no place to go. Right. Absolutely, Mike. Sorry, I'm heated now, but it's true.
Never for the grace of God.
I say it. I say it every day that I'm out there because I'm a middle-income person. I don't have a lot in the bank. What happened, Mike, if something happened to me?
And the way to keep it from happening?
Well, we're a very acquisitive society, and things are not a substitute for people. And when it comes right down, I think it was Robert Louis Stevenson who said you spend half your life acquiring things and the other half trying to get rid of them so you can die unencumbered.
Did you ever dream when you were married, had the family, had the kids, school, job, so forth? Ever dream this could happen?
No. Happened to the other guy. It never happened to you. It's the whole other guy story. But I tell you, there's a minister who said to me, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are only 4 paychecks away from where you are.
A footnote. Miriam Bond has finally found an apartment. New York State now takes her Social Security money, and with added help from the federal government, they pay her rent. And under a special program, they also clean her apartment, do her shopping, and give her 1 meal a day. Now she says she has about $100 a month left for everything else. She says it's a very happy new year.
"60 Minutes, a CBS News weekly magazine, will continue.
The insurance industry says we're in the midst of a giant lawsuit crisis, and on the face of it, they have a pretty good case. We've all heard of crazy lawsuits and outrageous jury awards. For instance, about the man in Oregon who won $1.5 million from Ford after the Pinto he was driving collided with a horse. And the psychic in Philadelphia who won $1 million jury verdict after claiming a CAT scan robbed her of her psychic powers. The insurance industry thinks that's ridiculous and wants states to put limits on jury awards. Recently, they made a series of commercials that say the lawsuit crisis is even worse than you might imagine.
1 out of 9 obstetricians surveyed has stopped delivering babies. Some mothers have had to find new doctors. Others have had to travel elsewhere to give birth. It's part of the lawsuit crisis. Today, schools are thinking about canceling football and other major sports. It's part of the lawsuit crisis. Our cities are in a bind. Money needed for firefighters, police, and other services is being used to pay the price of the lawsuit crisis. New York City says lawsuits may soon cost as much as the fire department.
Well, what about it? For openers, leading experts on manpower shortages in medicine tell us lawsuits are causing no shortages of obstetrical services now, nor will they in the foreseeable future. About high school sports, for the last 7 years, we've found just 6 successful lawsuits against school sports programs. In other words, less than once a year, one school sports program, 1 out of 20,000 throughout America, pays out on a lawsuit. And what about those threatened city services? A New York City official did once say that lawsuits may soon cost as much as the city's fire department, but he doesn't say it anymore. It was, his office admitted, an overstatement. Last year, for every dollar the city spent to settle legal claims, it spent more than $4 for fire protection. This magazine ad is also part of the insurance industry campaign. It says clergymen are being sued because of their advice. Well, it's hardly a crisis. It's happened twice, and not 1 penny has been paid because a pastor gave a parishioner a bum steer. But what about the stories of plaintiffs who have gotten huge awards? Charles Bigby was in a phone booth hit by an allegedly drunk driver.
All of the time you saw that car coming toward you?
I saw it coming toward me, yes, sir. The angle that she hit the phone booth forced the glass inward, and it just chewed my leg off. Right there at the spot.
The glass cut your leg off?
Cut it right off.
Bigby sued the driver and the phone company. When the California Supreme Court said he was entitled to a jury trial, President Reagan had one of his favorite lawsuit stories.
According to Chief Justice Rose Bird of the California Supreme Court, a jury could find that the companies responsible for the design, location, installation, and maintenance of the telephone booth were liable. I suppose all this might be amusing if such absurd results only took place occasionally. Yet today they have become all but commonplace.
Cruz Reynoso is a former California Supreme Court justice, one of the 6 justices, 6 out of 7, who said Bigby was entitled to a jury trial.
What the president has done is to take a case and dramatize it by leaving out a great many of the facts that are involved and therefore putting it in a context that appears to be silly. Important in this matter, not mentioned by the president, was that there had been a previous accident at precisely the same site with precisely the same booth.
The possibility the booth may have been placed in an unsafe location wasn't the only thing the president failed to mention.
What happened when you tried to open the door?
Well, when I tried to open the door, it would not open.
According to the sworn testimony of an eyewitness, that is exactly what happened.
He said that the last thing he saw Mr. Bigby doing was pulling at the door, struggling to get out. That was just before the car impacted and hit the phone booth.
You're aware of what President Reagan has said about your case?
They're saying that my case is outrageous, but he doesn't tell them that the phone booth had been struck previously. He doesn't tell them I was stuck in the phone booth. He doesn't tell them I had to stand there and just get run over like an animal. He don't say all that.
The Bigby case never reached a jury. Rather than face a jury trial, the telephone company agreed to pay Bigby a substantial sum of money. In Oregon, there's the case of the Ford Pinto that hit a horse which had bolted through a farmer's fence. Stephen Green and his wife were in the car.
I opened the driver's door and I noticed my wife. I called out, "Kelly, are you okay?" And I noticed the whole roof structure on the right-hand side of me was down. I couldn't even see her head.
Green tried to pull his wife out from under the crushed roof.
And that's when I noticed all the face injury she had to her head and skull.
So the roof had just come in on top of her?
Collapsed.
Her skull was cracked?
Her skull was wide open, sir.
Green sued Ford, claiming a stronger roof would have saved his wife's life. His lawyer had a testing lab do this simulation of the horse-pinto collision. Based on it, 2 former Ford engineers testified the roof was unreasonably dangerous. A former employee also testified Ford had a practice of concealing unfavorable test results by repeating tests until one car finally passed. The jury decided to award Green $1.5 million. That seems ridiculous to Assistant Attorney General Richard Willard, who often cites the Green case in the Reagan administration's effort to limit jury awards.
It seems to me, as a matter of common sense, unlikely that you could ever design a car that would be so strong that you could get involved in a head-on highway crash with a horse and not run a serious risk of injury.
Even Forbes magazine chimed in. How do you horse-proof the roof of a compact car? But Judge William Riggs, who heard the Green case, said there was nothing ridiculous about the jury's verdict.
Out here in the West, horse and automobile collisions are not terribly unusual. They might be in mid-Manhattan. But in Oregon, there's really a surprising number of livestock automobile collisions.
Why do you think they would have chosen this case as an example of the jury system gone haywire?
Well, it's kind of a sexy issue. A horse flying through the air, hitting the car. I mean, that does sound like a little bit of an unusual case. If this case had been a simple rollover where the Ford had rolled over and exactly the same thing occurred, the roof crushed, killed the passenger, with exactly the same degree of force placed on the roof that occurred when the horse hit the roof, you probably would never have heard of this case. This case would have been long forgotten.
Then there's the case of Joe Cota, who suffered extensive burns when his motorcycle was in a collision and burst into flames. A jury found the cycle had a defective gas tank and awarded Cota $3.5 million. That verdict led an Arizona business coalition seeking to limit jury awards to make this commercial.
After a round of drinking, an Arizona man climbed on his motorcycle and rode off into the dusk, on the wrong side of the road, into a head-on collision with a pickup truck. Yet the biker sued the motorcycle company and won $3.5 million. It's crazy. We're the victims of a lawsuit system out of control. Vote yes on 103 to fix the Arizona lawsuit mess.
Michael Brown was the presiding judge at the trial of Joe Cota versus the motorcycle company. The inference from the commercial is that he was inebriated.
Yeah, that he was drunk and back and forth across the center line. And there's no physical evidence of that.
After a round of drinking, an Arizona man climbed on his motorcycle.
There was no evidence that he was out of control? No physical evidence that he was drunk?
No, there wasn't. A, there wasn't any of that evidence, and B, it wasn't relevant even if he had been drunk. Had this motorcycle not been defectively designed, which is what the jury found, this man would have had a broken leg. Instead, he was burned almost beyond recognition. His ears were burned off. His fingers were burned off. This young man was grotesquely injured, and there's no way that anybody could tell you that the money he received for the injuries he sustained was too much money.
There was no mention of the defective gas tank in the TV commercial.
We're the victims of a lawsuit system out of control.
We wanted to ask the consultants responsible for that commercial why, but they wouldn't return our phone calls. Another story of a jury gone haywire appeared last season on 60 Minutes in a story we did on the other side of this issue. A ladder maker named Bernie Klein told us about a lawsuit his company lost.
A fellow was shingling a barn, put a ladder up with a staging, and he put the ladder up in a manure pile. Temperature was 20 degrees. When he was working in that area, a few days later, the temperature was 40 degrees. The ladder slipped, poor fellow fell, and unfortunately, he got hurt his ankle, and we're sued. Unfortunately, we didn't warn him about the viscosity of horse manure. So that's our classic, $300,000.
$300,000.
$300,000.
Well, several jurors in the latter case told us the viscosity of horse manure had nothing to do with their verdict. They say they were persuaded by the plaintiff's contention that the wood in the latter was defective, and that's why he was injured. Could we find any cases where the jury went haywire? Well, there is the case of Judith Hames, psychic Judith Hames.
Some people are born with the talent to sing or dance, and I had the talent to see aura.
So sitting here now, you can see a general aura around me.
Yes, I can see a general aura around you.
When Mrs. Hames went to a Philadelphia hospital for a CAT scan, she was injected with a dye, even though previously she had had an allergic reaction. She claims the dye caused chronic headaches.
If you've ever eaten an ice cream cone or consumed liquid too fast that was ice cold and you get that god-awful pain in your head, that's the kind of pain that I get when I try and concentrate.
Now, a psychic who can't concentrate is an out-of-work psychic. When a Philadelphia jury awarded her nearly $1 million, the cartoonist had a field day. So did President Reagan.
Last year, a jury awarded one woman $1 million in damages. She'd claimed that a CAT scan had destroyed her psychic powers.
The fact is, Judith Hames will not receive 1 penny of that jury's verdict. Leon Katz, the judge who heard the case, threw the verdict out and ordered a new trial because Mrs. Hames' lawyers failed to present any medical testimony linking the dye injection to the chronic headaches.
If I think the verdict is grossly excessive and contrary and diametrically opposed to the evidence and the law, then I have a duty, not a right, but a duty to set aside that verdict.
How common an occurrence is this, a runaway jury?
It is relatively uncommon. That's my opinion, and the reason that opinion is probably not shared by the general public is because they're subjected to 3 or 4 line reports of unusual cases where all they read is the amount of the award.
I don't know of any horror stories. I mean, I really don't. That sounds terrible, and I've practiced law for over 20 years, and I've been a judge for 6, and I just don't know of cases where juries have been fooled into giving people millions of dollars that weren't entitled to it.
A final postscript. The insurance industry complains that their claims losses during the lawsuit crisis increased at the rate of 16% a year. But the industry acknowledges that during the same period, its profits were 11% a year. According to the General Accounting Office, that adds up to a profit of $81 billion during the 10-year so-called lawsuit crisis.
Here's Andy Rooney, and don't say we didn't warn you.
We're always being warned. Had you noticed how often we're warned? I feel sorry for people who make some products. They spend millions of dollars on advertising telling us how great their stuff is, and then in little black and white letters on the label, the government makes them say things like, boy, you better watch out for this stuff because if you aren't careful, it could kill you. Look at these. These are all ordinary products, things we all use. But every package, no matter what it is, has a warning on it saying caution or danger or see your physician or this could kill you. If you read the labels on half these things, you'd be too scared to use them. You buy medicine and the label tells you not to take it. Look at this, some kind of a decongestant. Do not use this preparation if you have high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, thyroid disease, asthma, or glaucoma. Do not take this product if you are presently taking a prescriptive antihypertensive drug containing a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. Well, I have no idea whether I'm taking a monoamine oxidase inhibitor or not. Everybody over 30's got some disease of one kind or another. Here's a box of simple washing machine detergent. If swallowed, call physician immediately. And that's what it says on this little can of wood finish. If swallowed, call physician immediately. Everything dangerous should be kept where kids can't get at it. But is there any adult really going to eat this detergent accidentally and then wash it down with a little varnish? I just find it strange that we have a law forcing manufacturers to put a label on a box of soap telling people not to eat it. Here's a bottle of good bourbon. It's interesting to note that there's no warning at all on this. If you swallow a little of this, don't call your doctor. He's probably swallowing a little of it himself. This bottle of glue I keep on my desk. I like to live dangerously. Do not use near flame, it says. And if swallowed, call physician immediately. Hello, doctor. Say, I just drank a quart of glue by accident. What should I do? Our government treats us as though we were idiots who don't know how to take care of ourselves. Are people really as dumb as the government thinks? Please, don't answer that question.
Before starting the mail, we've been asked to tell you that Shelby Galleries of Sausalito, California, is not connected in any way to the Shelby Fine Arts Galleries that we reported on in our Salvador Dali art fraud story. Happy to do that. Now, this week's mail. About our story on dental clinics, most of the letters came from dentists, and most of them were like the one we got from the president of the American Dental Association. It is abhorrent to our profession that it is so difficult to curtail the practices portrayed in your report. But another dentist wrote, it's ironic that dental schools warn about the perils of assembly line dentistry and still produce the very oversupply that allows high-volume dental clinics to operate. Finally, about our story on lawyers suing lawyers, quite a lot of the mail came from physicians who said more or less what this doctor said, how nice it is to see lawyers getting a taste of their own medicine. I'm Harry Reasoner. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.
Day fraught with woe. The mad dog was my foe, and Miranda was slipping away so easy and free.
Stay tuned as a notorious terrorist is brought back to this country to stand trial in American courts. Ron Liebman and Sam Waterston star in Terrorist on Trial, a riveting world premiere drama next.
Look at the lights lighting up. My goodness, people speaking out.
Well, I'm for Mr. Murkle 100%. What more do you want to know?
He's a sick person.
Every time I hear the word government from him, I'm beginning to think government is a dirty word.
Oh, when you're drinking with me, I'm a man you don't meet every day.
For a printed transcript of this or any edition of 60 Minutes, send $3 to 60 Minutes Transcripts, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007.